So, John Murden, welcome to the Mechanics of Transportation. We are here to talk about cargo bikes because you have a garage full of cargo bikes here in the Richmond area. How many cargo bikes do you have in that really cool garage setup that I interviewed you for an earlier story on Vision Zero, so I got to see your cool garage. How many bikes do you have in general?
Well, I'm down to one cargo bike now. I had to sell one. We'll talk about that in a second. How many bikes do I have? I'm not exactly sure. Um, like three of them are mine, right? And some of them are project bikes. And some of them, my wife's bike and my kid's bike. My wife doesn't differentiate between my bikes and my project bikes, but I know the ones I'm keeping. I've got a cargo bike and my regular everything bike and a mountain bike.
Yeah,
I've got an old Schwinn tandem, which I don't know if I'm gonna keep it or sell it.
man,
Um,
nice. I have an old Gary Fisher Cooey Coo, it's called, that I converted into a not a cargo, well, like a bike packing bike that I keep wanting to use, but it's hard to do here in the suburbs. Is that your first cargo bike? When did you first get into cargo bikes? What is it about cargo bikes that you like?
well, I got my first cargo bike in 2019. It's a Yuba Mundo. It's a long tail, really standard like American style cargo bike, and I got it as soon as I had space to store it. It turns out I'd never thought about them before, but I was
Hmm.
pulling my boy around in a trailer for a couple of years, and
Yeah.
once we moved from an apartment to a house, I was like, oh, I can get one of those. And it was just a game changer. I wish I'd been able to do it years earlier. Um, just because there's a finite time where you can ride kids around, and I lost a
Hmm.
couple. So I got that one 2019. Um, Spent a couple of weeks going across the Nickel Bridge to T-ball practice before I put a
Hmm.
motor on it, and
Right.
it became my electric like everything bike at that point.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, the Nickel Bridge, that's just it's a lovely term, the Nickel Bridge, which is what I rode across it for the first time in like years yesterday. It's a toll bridge in Richmond, Virginia, that goes over the James, which is in need of more infrastructure and actually a rebuild. But they actually have a not dedicated, not by any means of the stretch dedicated, but they have a bike, painting on the ground that says you could ride in this lane as opposed to the sidewalk where all the runners and
Yeah,
walkers go.
it's got
Um,
it's got big hills on each side. You're coming back up, and that's
mhm.
that's the key right there.
Yeah, some guy
And that,
passed
that
me. Some
um,
guy like zoomed past me when I was riding it. I'm like, you're on a bridge for 5 minutes or less, not even 5 minutes, and you could slow down. So you had a cargo bike and then you converted it to an engine. Like, how did you get that going?
um, God, it's a Bafang motor. I just ordered it off the internet and hoped it was what it was supposed to be. And
Hmm.
it really was. It lived up to the promise. Um, I've got enough bike skills to swap stuff in and out and have the right tools. I had to run up to Outpost to get something while we were doing it. A friend that was a plumber helped me put the motor
Hmm.
in. Um,
And
then
the speed on that, by the way, Outpost is a bike shop, a great bike shop here in the Richmond area, and a speed on that. How fast were you going? I know there's limits in terms of what electric bikes or e-bikes can do. I'm
I
sure it
mean,
didn't go like that fast.
theoretically, there's limits. I mean, legally, there's limits. Um,
Yeah.
if if you order Chinese bike motors off the internet, they're fast. They're fast. I'm
Hmm.
not going to tell you how fast I can go, but I can keep it. I have no problem, in my own mind, keeping it to a normal civilized speed. But yeah, it's a little ridiculous. And once I put the motor on that, I realized I missed having a cargo bike without a motor. I mean, I like riding bikes, and it really kind of puts it into a slightly different area. So I got a Larry versus Harry front loader that I
Hmm.
had for some years, and that was really my favorite. That bike was like it's a cross between like a Ferrari and a pickup truck. I mean, it was a great
Hmm.
ride. I carried my boy around in that, and I carried restaurant stuff around. Um, and then till he got really just too big, he aged out of sitting in the front bucket, and I found
Yeah.
it just sat. It was too pretty a bike to sit in the shed, so I
Yeah.
sold it.
And with those bikes too, with the front loaders, those are the ones that I've been attracted to. That I see all these great European designs and everything, and I'm always like, oh, those are cool. But are they not unwielding? Are they hard to steer? Are they hard to maneuver?
It's
Like you have to kind of get used to it, right?
it's different, right? So I was an old dude when I got it. I've been riding a certain type of bike for 40 odd years, and then I get on one of those, and your center of gravity is in a whole different place. You're just kind
Hmm.
of pushed down and pushed out, and so you do have to learn slightly different muscle memory. But once you get it, you get it. It's fun. You can put the weight on. You feel the weight. Either type, you're going to feel what you're carrying some.
Yeah.
And long tails are more natural to get onto because they steer more normally.
Yeah.
But I think I
And
prefer
and
the
long tail means, just for those who don't know, the stuff is on, no, it's okay. It's the stuff on the back. Like instead of the front bucket, you're putting stuff on the back, like a kid or groceries or panniers or things like that, right?
right. Yeah, you got to carry it in the front or the back, one or the other.
One or the other.
Yeah. So
And
yeah,
then
I
with
think the front loaders are more European style. But you're seeing more here in the States now. Um,
yeah, and with those two, with the motor that you put on and with the motor that you had on that, were they electric assist or like as soon as you start going, I know there's different
right.
designs. I know Bosch, I think, makes one where you could push a button and like, oh, and now I have an assist, or if you start pedaling, or I don't know how they work.
So the main difference with the motors is whether they are torque sensitive or cadence sensitive,
Hmm.
right? And the ones that feel most natural, like the Bosch, the real factory installed ones, are going to be they're going to match your torque. The more you push, the more they push. So you're doing the work, and they're just kind of matching where you're at, and
Hmm.
it feels like a natural extension of your body. The cheaper ones or the aftermarkets, like the one I have, is more cadence. If I'm pedaling, it's just going to give me juice, which doesn't mean I'm putting any effort into it necessarily. Um, so I'm not, it's up to me to kind of keep it in a zone where I'm actually doing any work. A lot
Yeah.
of them will have a throttle as well, or a push button that turns the motor on to
Yeah.
help in different scenarios. I've got
That,
that as well. Some different classifications of cargo bikes will classify whether or not they can or cannot have a throttle, or what their top speeds are. And I'm not exactly sure the differentiations there. I know like some states have requirements like that, or you're not allowed to ride certain types of electric bikes in certain areas if they have
right.
higher speeds or throttles or not.
Yeah.
Um, I haven't paid attention to that too much.
It just seems weird to me. I mean, you're already maneuvering the bike, but to have a throttle, one in my mind defeats the purpose. I had a moped when I was 15 and a half. I had a few mopeds, and the first one I had a pedal assist for the moped. So whenever I got on a hill, I'd have to pedal to help it go up the hill, which kind of
Yeah.
reminds me of maybe
And,
what that's like.
and some of the e-bikes are getting terribly close to moped or electric motorcycle territory. But the cargo bikes will have a little bit have the throttle. I think just to help with the getting the heft up. If you got a
Hmm.
loaded bike and you're coming to a stop, maybe up a hill or at a stoplight or something, being able to just give it some juice for a second to get going is really helpful. I mean, one of the way cargo bikes fit into the whole bike world is you see a lot of them are family vehicles. You'll see a mom or a dad carrying a bunch of kids around. Um, and if you've got a normal sized mom carrying a couple of kids to school, being able to just punch that for a second to get across the intersection or whatever is really useful. I mean, there's a good case use for it, right?
Yeah, and I think too because the the what am I trying to say? I think the good use for cargo bikes too is that we know the axim. God, I'm trying to use fancy words. I should just say it. We know that most trips for people are under 3 miles.
Right, right.
So if you have to take kids to school or go to a quick store, depending on where you're at, you know, taking a cargo bike is a huge option, a huge deal breaker, something that should be encouraged and used. I think it's different in the city versus the suburbs, but I think it's a great option for people because we do so many smaller trips.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I have a 2.5 3 mile commute, which is used. I bike it when I can, and then I will use my cargo with the motor on it if I'm carrying stuff or just don't feel like it. But also, it will keep me out of my truck.
Hmm.
My get my kid to our school we used to go to was much closer. We used to go there on the regular. Now it's a little farther out, so we don't do it quite as much. But it's a good grocery getter. I mean, Richmond, there's a very bikeable, like 5 6 diameter core of the city where you can kind of get anywhere.
Yeah.
And the motor makes that really, really easy.
Yeah. And then in terms of cost and everything, I know since you've had yours, you've had different ones over the years. What kind of cost are we talking about for people that maybe want to get into it? And you could tell me about you also have like a swap meet or a cargo
Yeah.
meetup thing too.
So I mean, the big cost is whether you're buying new or used, and whether you're getting electric or manual, right? Like you can get a used Juba Mundo or like a truck transport on Facebook Marketplace today, no motor for like $800.
Hmm.
That mine was something about that. I remember 800 to 1,000, and then I put the motor on myself and my little Frankenstein bike. But if you're looking new, they can get up there, especially the European ones. I mean,
Hmm.
they're built to they're high quality and they're expensive. You're talking like eight $9,000,
Right.
which
But if you're looking at new bikes as well, I mean, not that I want to spend that, but you can get a regular bike
yeah
for
right.
$7,000 or something, which
So
to
I
me is
mean,
insane. But
you can run the gamut for
yeah.
real. I don't know what I would if I had the part of me getting all cheap in the beginning was I didn't know how much I was going to commit to it. I was like, this seems
Hmm.
kind of cool, but I didn't know how much it would really be super useful, which it has been, which has been great. And I
Yeah.
see the folks that have the factory installed motors on their long tails, and I'm a little jealous of that, to be honest. But I can't swing another bike, through the pipeline right now. Um,
Yeah.
but
Well,
when I first started doing this, there wasn't a way to really try out bikes. There was one dealer that was selling cargo bikes. Journeyman's has been doing it since 2016, and I didn't even know that at the time. And I just bought mine off a guy off Facebook because it seemed fun. But so we do. I started doing cargo bike meetups back in 2021, and part of it is just to kind of get us all together so we can see everybody's bikes. But a
mhm.
really related piece has been getting the cargo curious folks out. They come out and they're like, "I think I want one of these," and they can do demo rides and ask all the questions and like what'd that cost and where'd you get it? And sourcing bikes has been it's not as easy as just going and getting a regular bike because there's
Right.
only now there's 3 spots in town that sell cargo bikes, which is a nice improvement. You can actually go demo ride in person a whole lot more stuff.
Yeah. And I think I've been wanting to go to the cargo meetups for a really long time because I'm one of the cargo curious. I would love, like I said, I have a mountain bike that I've converted to a bike packing, which I could put groceries in if I wanted to, but I would really love, like, I'm always fantasizing about a cargo bike. So I recommend if you're, depending on if you're Richmond or wherever you are, just start searching for cargo bikes and meetups and groups and things like that because I think it's a great way to kind of, if you're cargo curious, to kind of see what the deal is. And then also too, I think in terms of pricing, I don't know where Virginia stands on this. I know some states do still offer incentives for buying e-bikes and things like that. And I think cargo bikes, and I'm sorry that I didn't do the research on Virginia. I know we don't have it because I think the General Assembly wanted to pass it and it failed to give
So
us a tax
I just saw
incentive, I
where
think.
a Virginia locality, maybe Arlington or somewhere, recently started doing that, but statewide, it's
Mm, yeah,
not a piece. I'd
yeah.
also like to say about the meetups is that it's a wonderfully diverse. It's a very unbroy kind of bike thing.
Hmm.
It's a lot of moms and their box bikes. They bring their kids or folks with dogs. It's really a neat crowd wherever I'm
Yeah.
at.
I think too, in terms of me being in the suburbs, I'd really like to do it. I mean, I ride around the county that I'm in Chesterfield all the time on my bike, but to do a cargo bike, I feel like one, I'm going to have to get used to it. And two, I'm going to have to plot a little more. I mean, we're market heavy. So I have like 4 or 5 markets depending on how many miles I want to go within 3 miles or less. And then another one that's maybe 5 miles or so, or just after 5 miles, but it's on a busy, six lane 4 to 6 lane road where people go 55, 50, 45 and things like that. So for me on my, if it's just me on my little road bike, sure. But me with a
Hmm.
cargo bike in the front with a huge thing, you know, I might have to think twice because I would love to do it. I think for a lot of people from what I read too, it's a good second car option. So it's not, if you want to replace your car and just have a cargo bike, that's great if you're able to do it. But I think for a lot of people, I think the introduction is you could use this when you can or something.
Yeah. We talked about the infrastructure. Because a lot of the cargo bikes are family bikes, like infrastructure
Hmm.
is more important, I think. A lot of folks that ride solo, you kind of take on some of the assumed risk or whatever of getting around town. But
Yeah.
if you're out there with your kids on the back of your bike, it does feel different. And even some of our bike lanes aren't aren't bike lanes that carry my boy in. I'll pop up on the
Hmm.
sidewalk or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we've seen way more cargo bikes in the city in the past 3 years. I mean, there's for a minute where I felt if I saw somebody on a bike, I knew who they were, and now it's like
Hmm.
I don't, and that's cool.
Yeah.
Um,
I hope they
that
wave. I hope they wave because I wave to everyone when I'm riding.
right. Um,
And I
but I think
think,
that
I think you're seeing more, by the way. I'm sorry. I think you're seeing more cargo bikes in general because of the infrastructure has grown so much in the past
yeah,
decade in the city of Richmond. And I know people may wank about, oh, we need this and that. But compared to 10 years ago, um, you have so many more options in terms of getting around. And they should wank about wanting more and more and more and safer and protected bike lanes. But I love for people to put in a perspective of it's come a long way
it's
from where
huge.
it was.
My commute now, they just put those bike lanes in on Western Hills Boulevard, and that was the final piece. Like my commute is either slower speed streets or bike lanes. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Um,
And we were talking, I interviewed you for the Vision Zero story that I did. And we were talking about different ways to get around. And I think if you're going to bike in general, cargo bike or not, it's really important to explore ahead of time before commuting to see which ways you could go. I mean, cutting through neighborhoods, finding where the bike lanes are. I know in Chesterfield, our bike lanes are really disconnected.
yeah,
It's a network that they've been trying to connect or sort of trying to connect, but you really have to do your research in terms of how you want to get around. And for you take your son. You were just telling me that your son is almost kind of done growing out of your bike, but you take a 45-minute ride to go to your son's school, and then you own several different restaurants and ride around doing that,
oh
right?
yeah, yeah. And the hardest part's getting him to school. It's just a little. There's no. It's missing the pieces. So we have to really just add some kind of dubious. Do we? I don't know. Part of it's up through a park. Which I can do.
Mm-hmm.
I can that the electric cargo will get up those mountain bike trails, but not everybody's going to want to do that.
Yeah.
Nobody. I make that happen, but be nice if we had a bike lane for sure. For sure, they'll
Yeah.
come after he's graduated. I'm sure.
And
Um,
I think it's too. How do you combat if we're talking just strictly about commuting now with a cargo bike or any bike? You have to get over the fact of today it's kind of drizzly. Do you motivate yourself to like, okay, I'm going to drive, which is fine for a lot of people, but how do you kind of motivate yourself to be like, okay, well, it's 45 minutes versus 15 in a car. How do you motivate yourself to like, I should bike because X, Y,
It's
Z?
on. It's if I can at all. I just love it. I love being outside. Honestly, I did a having good gear helps or having any gear helps. But like I did a delivery I ran last night for dinner. It was from one of the restaurants down to MCV. Just riding through the city in the drizzle, in the late early fall evening. It's really fantastic. And also not having to have a car, not trying to park somewhere down by MCV and deal with all that. It just makes I don't know. I think every journey is easier, even if it takes longer.
Yeah.
It's you just pull right up to the front door, lock the bike up, and do the thing. Um,
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good motivator. Just that and being able to park, but also passing by people at a light that
mm,
are stopped, five to 10 cars deep or something, and you just kind of ride up and be like, all right, I get to go. Like I could keep
right
moving.
through the city, we've got those red, especially through downtown. You got those red bus lanes on the side that are bus
Hmm.
and bike only. As long as I can stay ahead of the bus, I've got a whole lane to myself.
Oh, I didn't know that the red. So we're talking about the Pulse, which is the rapid transit for GRTC, and they painted Broad Street for bus only, like a huge red. And I know it caused a lot of not controversy, but a lot of people are like, "Oh, buses only," and which are all the drivers who have to now slow down and get out of the way. But you could ride your bike in that.
Yeah, some parts of the city it pops back into like the middle of the street. And I don't know if that's you know legal or not, but where it's going through downtown proper, it's on the side. And there's signs that say, bus and bike. It's great.
Oh, wow,
So
that's amazing. In terms of wrapping it up about cargo bikes,
yeah,
what else can you offer newbies? Any advice on cargo bikes, or what should people do to try to go? I mean, go to a meetup, anything like that? What else?
yeah. I mean, go to meetup and if you they're more and more accessible. Like there's we've got 3 folks here in town that sell them. Outpost has them. They have a couple different cool brands. Journeyman's has them, and Blue Ridge Cycle Read. They're new in town and they've got them.
Oh, I
So I
need to
mean,
go there.
we have brand names like Trek and Cannondale and Surly, Yuba. There's a lot of brands you would have heard of at dealers that are legit, and they've got stuff in stock, and you can do demo rides.
Hmm.
So like, just go look at them, and start figuring it out.
Yeah.
Because it's fun.
I think the avid biker in me, part of me wants to, when I do go to the store, I mean, I have used it to go to the store, but when I go and do like a proper shop where I'm going to fill both pannier bags and the
Mm.
back, with a basket, part of me just thinks, okay, you should just do it, like forget the motor. And I think after, if I load up my bike with just me, I'm going to be like, oh, if you want to keep doing this, I'm going to need a cargo bike.
It's yeah, I could put a lot. My Larry versus Harry was manual. It didn't have a motor on it, and I could put a lot of weight on there. And I only felt it on the hills. On the
Mm,
flats you could get going, and you just have a different mass. But it's a nice
yeah.
ride.
I mean, I've done bike packing where when I rode from my home in Chesterfield with a friend and we went out to the Capitol Trail and camped by the Chesapeake. I forgot what the area is, but it's when you go over the big bridge and over the Chesapeake and there's a campsite there. And, we weren't like fully loaded, but, my panniers were full. I had a tent and things like that. And you get used to it. So,
Yeah.
I could definitely do it. But I think, on some hills, I'm thankful for my really old Gary Fisher because it
Yeah.
has three chains and I could go really down to the granny gears as they call it.
Yeah. It's we everybody I've met that's been curious that's followed up on it. I still see him riding,
Hmm.
so it's worth
Yeah.
checking. It's worth checking out.
Well, John Murden, I really appreciate you talking to me today on the
Oh
mechanics of
yeah.
transportation about cargo bikes. And I encourage anyone who's interested to, and if you're in Richmond, anyways, go to the RVA cargo bike meetups that you post on, I think on
Oh,
Twitter. Like,
I've
where do
got
you post?
Instagram. Yeah, it's Instagram. It's
Instagram.
rva.cargo.bike.
Yeah. Follow him on that because one, it's really fun to watch all these cargo bikes. And I would totally, I will go. I am going to go because I want to nerd out more about cargo bikes.
So, all right, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.